Yes.
Two costs means yes.
Yes for Jess, and I think we're live. Hello, guys. How you all doing? Hey, Jess. Hey, Tommy.
Hey.
Hey, Harry.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
In shock.
Jess, Harry, I've seen you. Tommy, it feels like it's been so long since I've seen you. I miss you, Tommy.
It's been half a Eurovision year.
I know. It's gone
That's
fast.
how I measure time.
I can't believe that in like a month we're going to have Festivali Kunges, and even before then we've got Vidbeer.
Yes, they're kicking off. I'm ready. I'm so ready for the new season.
Me too.
Oh,
Yeah.
me too. And we've obviously got some changes coming up, and we're going to be talking about it. But let's quickly go to the live chat and say hello to. We've got Rye Bailey. Hey to you, Rye. Thank you so much for coming back. You're not happy with the voting changes, so we'll be talking about that shortly. Alexander, hey to you. After what the jury did to Kaino in 2019, you're not sad that all the juries will not be in the semis. Okay, that's a good point. We've got RJ in the house. Hey, RJ. You're not sure about the changes. Should have been the other way around. You think the jury should have been removed from the final if they wanted to make a change. Interesting viewpoint. Morton V, we always miss you and we always appreciate when you come back to see us. And yeah, can't believe how quickly Eurovision 2023 is coming around. Sarah O'Halloran, hey to you. Does it mean people can vote for their own countries? We will talk about that shortly. We've also got Noah Salter in the chat. Hey to you. We've got Yusuf. We've got Georgios Papadopoulos. Hello to you. We've got Alexander Pagels. We've got hey Stu. How you doing, guys? Two people that you won't see tonight, Stuart and Clara. They're both ill. Not very well either. So please send them lots of positive vibes. And guys, we hope you get better soon. We've got Blue Zone in the house. We've got Twonk. Hey to you, Twonk. And we've got Kane Allen. What is it with the EBU and random announcements midweek? Well, I mean, this one's kind of sent the fandom into meltdown, really, hasn't it? But we have to, for those of you that haven't seen the news, and maybe there are some of you that haven't caught on yet, Harry, tell us what the exciting news was that was announced today.
So the news announced today was that the EBU have decided to change the voting system for Liverpool 2023. The main changes are that there will be only viewer votes in the semi-finals, so the juries will be scrapped for them, but they will return along with the televote for the grand final, so that won't change. And probably for a lot of people, American viewers, people from all across the world, this will be the big one. Viewers from non-participating countries will be able to vote online in each of the semi-finals and the grand final.
Yeah, so three kind of, they are really significant changes, and we'll talk through them one by one. I mean, let's start with the fact that we're not going to have juries in the semi-final, and I think there's been lots of talk in the kind of Eurovision fandom today about why there is, and whether it's linked to the kind of disqualified jury votes that we had from certain countries and the claims of trying to fix jury votes this year. As a reminder, those countries were, I think, Azerbaijan, we had Romania in there,
Montenegro,
San Marino as well, I think,
Poland.
I think there were 6 countries. I can't remember.
Was it Serbia as well? Was the other one, or I can't remember?
I'm not sure if it was Serbia, but obviously there was 6 sets of jury votes that were disqualified from the semi-final this year. So it's interesting that this change has come in. Jess, do we think this is a direct result of that kind of?
I think part of the changes are, and I think the decision to remove the juries from the semi-finals, I think, is related to the fiasco that happened this year. And when you actually look at the kind of press release from the EBU, they do specifically mention, the voting irregularities from the semis this year with the jury. So obviously that's in direct response to what happened. But as for allowing the whole world to vote, I literally have no idea why they've decided to do that.
Yeah, just picking up on your point, the press release. So the EBU did say in the press release, following the unprecedented nature of the voting irregularities seen at this year's contest, a working group of EBU members was established to look at ways to protect the integrity of the event. The recommendations were then approved by the reference group, the contest governing board, and the executive board of the EBU. So, I mean, it does seem like a kind of direct link to what happened this year. Tommy, how are you feeling about the fact that we're not going to have juries in the semis?
In general, I was just completely shocked. I always get very anxious about these rule changes in Eurovision. They always really throw me for six. But it was a bit of contemplating today. It was a lot to digest. I mean, I'm always personally thinking about how it's going to affect Ireland and our chances of qualification. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you have a good song, you will get through to the final with just a public vote, and you don't need jury votes. But I guess I keep thinking back to why we had the jury public vote mixture in the first place. And during the 2000s, I think it may be controversial for some people to acknowledge, but we did have a period of time where the 100% public vote kind of encouraged an element of silliness or joke acts or something like this in the mid 2000s, and that was why they brought back the jury vote. So it's a bit strange to kind of reverse that decision all these years later, especially considering how the quality has improved so much since then in some people's tastes.
Yeah, it's you know, there's some fans around today that won't kind of remember the period of where we had televoting only and the type of results it was. Yeah, Harry, you just remind me I'm so damn young. But it was, you know, it was for me loving the way that Eurovision has kind of travelled over the more recent years and the quality of the songs we're getting. The fact that we're not really getting so many of these kind of these silly entries. It does kind of give you that fear, but then the juries are back in the final, which is another point that we will talk about shortly. Harry, what are your views on the first change regarding the televoting only semi-finals?
So, do you want the sugar-coated answer or the straightforward answer?
Whichever one doesn't involve swearing.
Okay, neither involves swearing. I'll just give the straightforward one. I hate it. I hate the disclusion of jury. And to be honest, it comes back to your point in a sense, Tommy, that the contest has evolved. So I became a proper Eurovision fan in 2018. And part of the reason was because of just how good the quality was in the contest. Like thinking about songs like the first few I listened to were Lithuania, Austria, you got Estonia, Cyprus, etc. It's such a good quality year. And I sort of think back to like, because I've recently gone back and looked at that mid 2000s period where it was, you know, mainly, you know, you had a few novelty acts in there, some worked, some didn't. And I sort of think back to if I tried to become a fan then, I don't know if I would have been as big a fan, because I'm not a fan of the novelty acts. I prefer quality prevailing and getting to the final. And I worry that there's going to be a particular style of song that is really going to suffer unfairly because there's not that element of people looking at the song, as a judging it from, you know, technical elements. And that does concern me from that perspective, I think.
Tommy, in the chat, a few people have said, are the juries going to be back in the final? So, yeah, the televote, they're not even calling them televotes now, it's viewer votes, because there's different ways that people will be able to vote through the app online, etc. But the viewer votes only for the semis, but then it will be back to the normal combination of jury and viewer votes that we've been used to in recent years, with another kind of major change, which we will talk about. But Tommy, you came up with a really good point earlier with regards to how that will affect countries that automatically qualify to the final.
Yeah, because essentially it kind of creates two separate conditions for the big five versus other countries. I haven't really been able to decide whether this is positive or negative or advantageous or disadvantageous, but essentially, I mean, we always think about how a song needs to appeal to both the public and the jury across the board in the semi-finals and in the final. But I guess now the big five countries can solely focus on appealing to both jury and public, whereas the countries who need to qualify have this kind of extra additional thing to think about by needing to be in the top 10 on public vote alone in the semi-finals, but then also pleasing the juries when it comes to the final. I don't know if I should attach too much weight to that, because in the end, if you can't get into the top 10 of the public vote in your semi-final, probably you're not a hit with the juries also. So maybe it doesn't matter, but Yeah, it's a funny kind of distinction and consideration between like the two different groups of countries.
Yeah, but Jess, it does kind of give us that the fact that if they do qualify, they will need to pick up those jury votes.
Well,
may
yeah,
help
for sure.
minimize the risk of getting those kind of silly, jokey
Yeah.
songs people are fans of, you know. But personally, I've liked not having so many of those
Yeah.
songs. I mean, I'm thinking about Estonia with the Onions, and you know
What is it?
that we used to get.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
thing that worries me is like the reputational damage that happened for some people viewing the contest during that time still
100%.
endures. Like in countries
Mhm.
like Ireland, the mainstream thought is that that is what Eurovision still is, and it's just endured for so long. So that's kind of the worrying part, I think.
But I mean, I think it could be quite difficult for the semi-final countries on how to proceed, because obviously you want to make the final. So then you're going to think, okay, I need a televote song. But then what if you want to do well in the final, you need more than just the televote. So you need to have enough jury appeal to do well in the final. Otherwise it could be a win-win for the big five and we're always going to be at the top. But you know, I guess it's finding the right balance between jury and televote.
Yeah, and the countries still will need to do that. You know, it's unless their main goal is literally just to qualify to the final, and then they don't care how they do. And but I'm sure all countries are in it to win it, right? It's every nation's goal is to win the contest, so they will still have to get that balance. And I'm really hoping that we've seen enough of an evolution of quality in terms of Eurovision over the past few years now that countries will be taking it more seriously and trying to get that commercial song, or that really musically interesting song to represent their country. But you know, time will tell, guys. I mean, look how much Eurovision has changed in itself over the past decade. And I guess these changes need to keep happening for the contest to evolve. Harry, what was the second change? Because I've forgotten what it was.
It was aside from obviously. Do you mean juries being in the final or just the global one?
Sorry, it was yeah, of course. So jury's in the final, so we've covered that. Before we go on to kind of the other big change and the new thing for us Eurovision fans is I'm just going to have to go and say hello to Ellen Hanwright. Hello to you. I think you're in Australia and you're watching this at 5 a.m. for once. Do you know what? So much appreciation to you for tuning in and supporting us and watching us so early in the morning. I do wonder if you ever sleep, Ellen. But thanks so much for joining us. We've got Vladimir from Skopje. Oh, so sad that we're not going to see you guys in Eurovision 2023 next year. However, North Macedonia will be at Junior Eurovision in a few weeks with their song, which is called Jess.
Pred mene something. I can't remember.
Perfect.
Well done.
Well, guys, good luck in Junior Eurovision. Great to see you here. MZ, you haven't seen the news. Well, you might have to rewind a little bit then because we've just told you what the changes are, but I'm sure you'll pick it up from the chat. We've got Tumble Tower who says, you thought the introduction of 50-50 jury and televoting in the semi-finals in 2010 was to make them fairer. The plan for 2023 semi-finals sounds like a step back.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do worry because obviously, you know, I remember the televote era in Eurovision and all of these kind of cheesy songs, novelty acts and kind of generic pop dance tracks that we used to get. And I worry that maybe we would kind of fall back into that pattern because everybody would be sending that just so they can get into the final. I do feel like there could have been other ways around it and they didn't necessarily have to get rid of the juries completely. They could have changed the way the jury system works, but ultimately this is the decision they've made and I would be interested to see how it pans out next year.
One of the things actually that we haven't spoken about is obviously Turkey has been absent from the contest for 10 years now, I think, since 2012.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that they've stated they're absent is because they don't think the voting is fair. So I wonder now, with having because they did support kind of the whole televote situation. They obviously did very well from it as well. I wonder whether this would entice Turkey back kind of in 2024 going forward, whether it's the qualification from the semi that's really important to them, and then it's kind of like fair game in the final. It might encourage someone like Turkey to come back to the contest.
I think that can be helpful, even if there has been this rumor or fact or suspicion that there have been voting irregularities. You know, countries invest a lot of time, and artists invest a lot of time and money in preparing for the semi-final, and to not qualify is like crushing. So to think that there had been an unfair element in some voting irregularities, anything that removes that from the situation, I think is a positive step and should encourage more countries to join if they know that they have a fair chance and there's no irregularities taking place.
Yeah. I'm just going to go to Yusuf. Hey, Yusuf, you think this is the best solution at the minute? Hard to please everyone. Boy, do we know that. Gives the masses the biggest say, and you love the rest of the world edition. Sorry, I was just trying to work out what that was. Rest of
The
world
Rods W.
What country is that?
And Clara and Stuart well as well. Guys, Clara and Stuart are not feeling very well tonight, so please, they are in the live chat though, so please do wish them well. We hope they get better very, very soon. I saw a comment from, and I've lost it, Alexander Pagels. You're just happy that during voting hasn't been completely demolished. Guys, if I went around, I'm going to say that I'm a fan of mixed jury and televote. Harry?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I'm happy.
Tommy?
100%.
Yeah, I mean, we are a very kind of UK island-based panel tonight. So, you know, from a UK perspective, I've enjoyed having the juries in terms of in terms of kind of making the voting fairer in my perspective. But I appreciate there's other countries whose maybe results kind of went down after the juries were introduced. Xander, you say that you don't think this is going to be great for Australia.
Oh,
Yeah.
Really good point, because Australia traditionally have always sailed through because of the juries and then lower on televotes.
I think this will. No, sorry.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Australia, if they start flopping, could be an overriding issue for certain countries. Because if you look at especially the 2000s, it was a lot more Eastern European countries qualifying. North Macedonia and Croatia were kind of countries that would go on, you know, good levels of streaks of qualification. And I worry that not only could it affect Australia, but it could be affecting a number of countries that could be trying to get in. Like a lot of the smaller countries, like maybe a Liechtenstein and Andorra. We wouldn't see an Andorra or a Monaco returning, just from the fact that micro-states struggle to get televotes. San Marino could struggle with this. I think for as much as some countries will say it's better for them, it's not fairer. It's just you did better because you had more neighbour voting and elements like that, which is why you qualified, and you just couldn't adapt to the jury. So I'm sure this will benefit other countries, but I don't see it as a fairer solution.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of some of the smaller states. This would be really disadvantageous. Is that the word?
Yeah.
It really disadvantages them and wouldn't encourage them to come back to the contest. But you do wonder. Obviously, it was a bit of a shit show in terms of kind of the jury. It was quite embarrassing for the EBU and Eurovision this year in terms of having to disqualify so many jury votes. And you wonder whether what would be more important to them, the integrity of the contest or having Monaco back, or at least joining. So I'm sure they've looked at all of these different these different options and thought, actually, who is it going to benefit? Who is it going to disadvantage to? And they've had to weigh that up. But they've been quite clear this is about the integrity of the contest. And ultimately, if you haven't got integrity in the contest, then you're not going to have a contest for very long.
Yeah, and at least we do know, and hopefully they will still continue to use the system where they do the allocation draws by placing the countries in different pots, so that they place countries in the same semi-finals that don't tend to vote for each other with patterns. So at least that's kind of some kind of control on the situation.
Yeah. I'm just going to... Yusuf has made a very, very valid comment, though. The juries will still vote in the semis because they want to use them as backup votes in case of invalid television. And I think countries like San Marino typically have never been able to submit to the vote scores anyway. So there will be some jury votes still. Matt S., hello to you. You're saying, does it mean we will still have jury shows for the semis? yes, I'm assuming that we will still have to have. I mean, they're also used as rehearsals as well and run-throughs for production. So those shows will still take place. And as Yusuf has just pointed out, the juries will still need to vote, even if it's just used as a backup. Blue Zone confirming that the reference group member has said the change is a result of the jury scandal. And hola, Clara, hola mi bebe, hola mi bebe. We hope you're feeling a bit better tonight and get well soon. But anyway, guys, we have to talk about the other kind of major change, and it's not such a big surprise for me because I was expecting this to come over the next couple of years. But this is the rest of the world being able to vote in Eurovision this year. So they will not have a jury. They will just be able to vote in the same way as everyone in Europe, so online. I think I read that they'll have to use a credit card to be able to register their vote. But we're going to be getting votes coming in from all over the world. All of those votes will then be brought together, kind of as if it was another country. So we will have the 37 countries voting, and then we will have kind of country 38, which will be rest of the world. So similar to kind of the OGAE contest, to decide who their winner is. So there will be a rest of the world vote. Now, I've seen lots of people talking about, well, Spain is going to really benefit from this because everyone in South America is going to vote for Spain. You know, loads of Brazilians are going to be voting for Portugal, etc., etc. But guys, I'm going to come to you first, Harry. What do you think of this change? It's bound to happen, right?
Yeah, well, I will say, thank God they didn't implement it this year, because otherwise Serbia might have won with the amount of votes Stu would have given them from Canada. But
remember, those votes only get converted into a 1 to 12.
Well, this was part. I was going to say that. Like, personally, unlike the first change, which I'm not a fan of, I don't see this one as an issue. I think it's a good idea. Like, there's so many Euro fans around the world, from America, from Asia, you know, all over the place, and they should have, I think, a fair opportunity to vote in there. And it's not like we're going to be going to a representative from Japan and then to Canada or Mexico. It's going to be one set of like 12 points or however many is in the set, and I think it will have minimal impact on the final score. I don't think it will decide a winner, for example, but it will have enough say where it becomes more inclusive. My only concern is, with it being online, there's always the risk of potentially some people rigging a system, and then one country all of a sudden gets a vast increase of votes because, you know, they can't, because it's an online thing. It sometimes happens. That's my only concern. If they can fix that, I see this as a natural progression of Eurovision.
Jess, you sound unsure.
I can't say that I'm a fan of this rest of the world voting. I mean, I've always known Eurovision to be like a European kind of affair, and in more recent years, obviously, you've had Australia.
Mute.
Well, no, but I mean, you know, ultimately, kind of Eurovision was set up to kind of unite the countries of Europe after World War II, and it was all about Europe at that time, essentially. And so I don't understand why you're including the rest of the world in a European contest. Like, I don't, obviously money comes into it, but I feel like they should kind of stick as close to Europe, plus Australia and Israel, as possible, really. Because I feel like the next step after this is going to be the rest of the world performing at Eurovision and participating. That's where I feel like it's headed.
For me?
Yeah, well, I'm going to pick up on what Jess just said, because this is sometimes a trend we see with the EBU, where they introduce a rule by stealth, you know. It's like inch by inch they bring a rule in, and suddenly it's something that you didn't intend it would start as. But I mean, for me, I was totally happy with it. I was a little bit concerned until I found out that it would only hold the weight of one country. Since I realized that part, I was like, okay, that totally makes sense. It's completely fine. It's not going to make or break anything. And I think it allows for a lot more inclusion and investment from people who are watching from outside the participating countries. Also, because many of the rest of the world voting will come from like previous Eurovision countries, like you were saying, Turkey earlier, Andy, and, you know, some of the countries that have like just not been able to return for a couple of years. And then, yeah, I think it will reflect more of the taste of the world at large rather than Europe. And I think it could add an additional element. So, you know, the way we usually talk about like the jury winner, the public vote winner, we could then have like a rest of the world winner, like who's the rest of the world favorite. So I think it's a really interesting element to add to it. And not something I ever saw coming, but yeah, I think it's perfect. It's going to be exciting, and it's going to add a new element of excitement to the voting sequence.
Yeah, I mean, like Harry was saying, it's not good for me. It's not going to make a huge difference because we're talking a maximum of 12 points different. So even if the rest of the world vote for a song that's got 0 points up to that point in voting, it's it's still only going to give them 12 points. So it's unlikely it will decide a winner. It will make the it will make the voting a little bit more tense. Maybe it'll be interesting to see where those votes go. But thinking of Ireland, Tommy, there's a huge Irish
Yes.
in the United States.
We might get some votes finally. Yes, we have like one of the biggest diasporas, probably from some of the European countries. So yeah, it can hurt us definitely. You're from US, Canada. There's Irish people everywhere. So, but I don't believe in just diaspora voting. So it has to be on the quality of the song. But one thing I do hope is that they announce the international vote in the same way as a jury vote, so we get to see individually what the international audience thinks. That would be really cool for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they will do it. I was thinking about how they will present them, and I'm sure it'll be the hosts that will present the international vote from the studio. I mean, it would be lovely to go to kind of a different country every year. We could be in Canada. Stuart could give the votes from Canada. Be getting votes coming in from Rio de Janeiro. That would just be fantastic.
That would be awesome.
I would love to see that. I'm just going to go to some of the comments. Kane Allen, you're saying globalization is the future, whether we like it or not. I mean, we're seeing the Eurovision brand being rolled out around the world now. We've got Eurovision Canada coming up. We've already had the American Song Contest. We've got a South American version, I think, in the pipeline.
And a Canadian version. Pardon?
Asia Vision, that never happened.
Yeah, that got scratched.
I think it never got off the ground.
It's been meaning to happen for a long time.
Yeah. Stu is saying, people saying that Latin American countries are going to vote for Spain don't know much about Spanish history.
Yes.
And also, you have to remember in Junior Eurovision, anyone around the world can vote, but yet Spain never tops the vote, or this country never tops it. So.
Yeah, but their votes don't get presented as the rest of the world votes, do they?
They're just all combined. Every online vote is combined together.
Sorry, that's a thing. I've got totally muddled. It's the jury votes that get announced in the show. The televotes are all combined. Yeah. So, I don't know if we will get a separate kind of breakdown. It would be nice if they would, and you've kind of got the 3 stages of the voting, I guess, and they could announce it in the studio. But anyway, Yusuf again asking if they would do a breakdown, detailed voting results. I'm sure we would post the contest. I think Eurovision understands the fact that they have to be as transparent as possible in terms of voting, which is kind of why we're in the situation with these changes that we have today. Georgios, you're saying it would be so controversial if the winner would be different due to the rest of the world score, like 3 points. We have had close contests before. The sheer number of points now that are dished out.
Yeah, not recently.
It's. I think it would be harder for there to be such a close result. If I don't think I could handle a close result again. I find it difficult enough just waiting to see at the very end of the show, let alone if you're kind of talking like 2 points in it.
And especially if it's the UK, there's one of those countries.
Rigged. It's going to be rigged. When was the last time there was like a first and second separated by like 10, 20 points though?
I believe it was 2003.
Yeah.
There was 2 points separating first and second.
Was that
and third place was 1 point below.
No, it was Belgium and Turkey were the two. But if we're talking then, like there were like 26 countries total, and there was only one set of votes. So I feel it's unlikely the look, if that happens, then it clearly was a very close contest between the two. But I think at this stage it's unlikely with the sheer amount of points that are getting given out in the contest.
Yeah, I'm just going to say hello to Kat Wellham as well. He says San Marino came last in 2008 and they did not deserve it. I love that song from San Marino.
They should have qualified.
Totally. And I'm just, and Kat is also saying that the voting changes aren't going to be good for Malta as well.
I don't know why people say that. Does anybody understand? Kat, can you let us know?
I mean,
do you know why people are saying that? Specifically Malta?
Malta typically do very well with the juries compared with the televoters.
Oh, okay.
And in more recent years, the juries kind of got them in the final.
I see.
Well, to be fair, when Malta have got to the final, they have been top 10. Recent years, they have been top 10 with the jury, with the televote as well, like 2021 and 2019. It's when they get to the final is the issue, discrepancy. But I think semi-finals, from what I checked research-wise, they wouldn't have missed any finals that they've already been to with no jury. So, yeah, I think it'll be similar issues to Malta compared to just recent years.
But I mean, with, talking about this is going to advantage one country or disadvantage another, ultimately, whatever you do, you can never please everyone. And there's always, whatever system you have, some countries will always be more like advantaged than others, really. And it's just trial and error.
Yeah, KC9 Music as well. We have to say hello to you. You're all, well, I'm assuming you're in Australia, but you're an Australian, and you're worried about what removing the juries will do for you. So someone else had made that point earlier as well. You struggle with the public vote. So yeah, it's there will be countries that will come up as traditionally doing better with juries who will not like this change, but there is still a possibility to get through to the final. And in which case, once you're in the final, then the juries are back, so you may do better. But yes, if you are just joining us and you haven't heard the news, it's literally sent the Eurovision fandom into meltdown today. Is that there is going to be some changes in Eurovision, quite major changes in Eurovision voting next year, and those changes are power to the people. So only viewer votes deciding the countries that will qualify from the semi-finals. So the juries are being taken out of the semi-finals. The juries will be back, though, for the grand final. So it will be the 50-50 split that we're used to, and going global. So viewers in non-participating countries around the world will be able to vote online. The points will then be brought together into a normal 1 to 12, converted into 1 to 12 points Eurovision style. So excuse me, if you are just joining us, that is the news, if you hadn't heard already. But make sure you subscribe to our channel as well. If you are new here, I would really love your support, and we love catching up with you guys in the live chats and hearing your views on all these kind of things that Eurovision wants to drop on us randomly in the build-up to Eurovision 2023. We've just come back from hard for me to say. Het Grote Songfestival Feest in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, which is an amazing concert. I can't wait for you guys to see that on TV or online, however they're gonna show it. But some amazing performances from many Eurovision artists, including, I think it was 8 winners of Eurovision on stage. The first time there's ever been that many altogether on a Eurovision event, including people like Lorraine. We had Elena Paparizou. We had we had Carola from. She didn't do Invincible. Spoiler alert.
No.
How can you not do Invincible?
Come on, I know it's the not winning song, but still.
I'm sure she had a wind machine though on stage with her. Yeah. So yeah, some Netta was there also, and we also did some interviews while we're over there. So make sure you go back. There's a playlist on our channel, so you can go and watch those interviews. Also, we've got Junior Eurovision coming up in a few weeks' time in Yerevan in Armenia. So make sure you stay tuned to our channel to get all the news from that. And then, as we said before, Vitbeer and Festival in Kunges next month. I actually can't believe we're going to have 2 Eurovision songs already next month, which is freaking amazing. Can't wait. And hope to see loads of you in Liverpool, but we will see you before then, right? But yeah, subscribe to the channel, catch up with all the news. Harry, Tommy, Jess, thank you so much for tonight, for taking us through.
You're welcome.
If you
My
had to
pleasure.
pick your favourite change out of the two, Harry,
Easily the world one.
Jess.
I guess I'll go for the
Like either of them.
semi-final one.
Grudgingly. For me, the global voting.
Yeah, global voting for me as well. Really looking forward to seeing how that pans out, and if it makes any difference at all, or if it is all about money, we will see. But guys, thank you so much for catching up with us tonight, and we will see you very soon. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.